how is it for you to make the decision, that intelligent change decision of, you know what, even though I built this whole life in London, I'm gonna move back to Australia and in a way start a new life?
I'm generally in for me. I really am. And it's a beautiful way of living. It takes away a lot of the judgment on situations that I would have definitely and objectively judged as this is bad, this is painful. I know this is happening for me. I know that that's the truth. He died in my arms. And that was very, very painful. I mean, it completely broke me. It opened my eyes to the fact that we do have a limited amount of time here. And I stopped living like I was going to live forever. There's 4 stages of human existence. There's to me, and that's when things are happening to you. I can't believe this happened to me. I can't believe he did this to me, or she did this to me, or why is this happening to me? And I said, well, what's number 4? And he goes, I'll tell you next time. I was like, what do you mean next time?
Hey James, welcome to the Intelligent Change podcast.
Thank you.
And welcome to my home.
Thank you.
For this episode, I want to really switch it up and make it just cozy vibes. Just we're friends. We haven't caught up in over 6 years.
Yes.
And I just want to make this episode just 2 mates catching up, speaking about life. And yeah, so this is going to be an experiment. Let's do it.
Okay. I'm in.
Welcome back to London.
Thank you.
What has changed? Because this podcast name is Intelligent Change. What has changed since I last saw you?
Well, when we last spoke, I was exiting a business that I'd founded in 2006. And that was a process because the business was, my entire identity was tied up in this business that I'd built, and it was, a big part of who I was. And so finding who I was without that business was a process. And it wasn't always easy to have faith in sitting in the stillness and to have faith that the right thing would arise, because I was really tempted to snatch at things immediately. And I also needed a rest. I mean, it grew to be an amazing business, a big one. And all of the sudden, Chrissy and I, my wife, who, helped me build it, we just decided it was our time to go back to Australia and a whole new chapter. But it definitely came with its challenges.
Yeah, this is one of the things that I want to double tap on that.
Sure.
Because the whole point of intelligent change and this conversation that we're having here is that a lot of people listening or watching, we all have to go through these changes in life.
Yes.
Life transitions where, you have to maybe sell a business or you make a career move, you become an entrepreneur. And especially what I respect about you a lot is that as all of us, we want to build a beautiful life.
Yes.
You have an incredible wife, 3 beautiful children, and that's a lot on its own.
Yes.
So with the business that you built, which is also a very community-focused business,
Yes.
It's Bodyism. It's a big part of the community. Unfortunately, it finally now shut down.
I heard.
Which is a big loss to the community. And you've always been a big part of this Notting Hill community, and we're just kind of speaking about that. And you said a lot of your identity was into the bodyism guy and the celebrity trainer and working with the most incredible people around the world, but also in London, and being in the known. And so how is it for you to make the decision, that intelligent change decision of, what, even though I built this whole life in London, I'm going to move back to Australia and in a way start a new life?
Just before I turned 40, my dad passed away. So he had cancer, And when he'd initially sort of been diagnosed, we went back to Australia, and I just did everything to help him through that. And it was stage 4 lung cancer, and it didn't, it wasn't good at all. But it disappeared, and it went away. And I prayed and I manifest, I did everything. And, looked at every single alternative therapy and traditional therapy, no matter what, no stone was unturned. It was incredibly miraculous. And I had this wonderful 2 years with my dad. And I'm eternally grateful for that. And then it came back. I flew back to Australia and was with him, and he died in my arms. And that was very, very painful. I mean, it completely broke me. My dad was and is just a beautiful, gentle soul, and my hero, and my best friend. Wonderful, wonderful man. Um, and if there was one gift in that, it opened my eyes to the fact that we do have a limited amount of time here. And I stopped living like I was going to live forever. And it gave real meaning to each moment. And Chrissy and I had some conversations in the following months, and we realized that time was going to drift along, and we actually needed to make some choices and decisions. And that prompted our move back to Australia. It really did. And that's one thing that I'm grateful for. And there's funnily enough, when I was exiting the business, it was a stressful time for me. And, there was a lot going on. And I was doing jujitsu, and we'd finished training. And this guy that I didn't know sort of came up and said, "Do you want to have a chat?" And I said, "Oh, okay, what about?" And he goes, "You just look like you've got a lot on you." And I said, "What do you mean on me?" He goes, "Everything." And I was like, "Actually, I would like to chat." And so we just sat on the mat in our gis, and I talked for an hour. Had never met this guy. And he just sat and listened, didn't say one word. At the end of it, he just sat there quietly for a strong 5 minutes, which is a long time. Just sat there, and I'd talked myself out, and I just felt so good to have been listened to by someone. It was amazing. And then he said, "Do you mind if I say something?" I was like, "Not at all, go ahead." And he said, "Look, I've learnt this from someone else, but I want to share it with you, that there's 4 stages of human existence. There's to me, and that's when things are happening to you. I can't believe this happened to me. I can't believe he did this to me, or she did this to me, or why is this happening to me?" And he said, "And then there's through me. When you realize that you're part of this universe, and that it's all happening through you, and you're part of it." And he said, "And then there's for me." And that's when you know. And the truth is that it's happening for you. And you just have to be present and appreciate the gifts that are coming to you. And I was like, I got it. And it was wonderful, because there was so much going on that was happening to me. And when I was able to reframe it, and I felt that truth, that actually it was happening for me, it changed everything. It really did. And I said, "Well, what's number 4?" And he goes, "I'll tell you next time." I was like, "What do you mean next time? Like, I haven't seen you before. When am I going to, I want to know." And he said, "Don't worry, I got to go now." I was like, "Okay, fine." Anyway, I didn't see him for about 3 weeks. And then I saw him, and I said, "I'm going to talk to you after. I want number 4," kind of thing. So, of course, so we sat back and we chatted. "How's things going?" I said, "Much better, actually." "What's number 4?" And he said, "Number 4 is by me." And that's when you realize that you are creating all of this. You're the creator. You're not just the actor. You're not just the director. You're the script writer. You're writing the whole thing. And I said, "Okay, oh, I love that. That's great." And he said, "The only thing that comes with that is that you've got to take responsibility for all of it." And I thought about it. I was like, okay, so I've got to take responsibility for being abandoned as a baby, and whatever things that I've suffered as a child. I'm like, really? I got to like, that's a big thing, and I'm not always there. I'm not always able to accept all of it, and but I'm generally in for me. I really am, and it's a beautiful way of living because it takes away a lot of the judgment on situations that I would have definitely and objectively judged as this is bad, this is painful. Hang on, I know this is happening for me. I know that that's the truth. And I don't have to get in and fix, change, and improve. I can give it space. And then once whatever emotion is coming through me has kind of gone through and been processed, then is there something to be done? And it's just so much more powerful. And I have to say that 99% of the things that my ego would have felt it had to get in and fix, change, improve, you don't need to do anything. And just being present and in the moment is a very, very powerful way of living for me. And it's also much happier. So there,
Wow. Could you repeat those four again?
to me, through me, for me, and then by me.
As you said, as you grow, as you take on a lesson, how have you embodied it in your own life, in the things that then come up? Because I'm sure you, let's say even people who are watching or listening to this is very profound. And then, okay, I'm aware of this. How do you then, after you go away from the mat, how do you then actually implement it in your life? And the things that start, unrolling, happening, because life keeps happening. You have to keep making decisions. You said
Mm-hmm.
there's challenges. So how do you actually then embody that lesson into your own personal life?
I think when you're aware and you believe and you know that it's happening for you and not to you, it changes the way you approach things. It really does. And at the same time, I was learning about ego and the kind of need for the ego to fix, change, and improve everything. And once I let go of that compulsion and need, things just improved dramatically. And I think just an awareness of this is happening for me just changes the way you approach things. Saying it out loud changes the way that I approach things. I can only speak for myself and Chrissy. And you tend to then, the choices and decisions and directions that you take are from a real place of truth. And it's worked very well for me so far.
Beautiful. And thank you for being vulnerable and sharing in regards to your father's death and how
Mm,
that led you to really evaluate what's important in life
yes.
and how valuable life is, and not
Yes.
just thinking that, hey, life is forever. For myself, I lost my father when I was just about turning 18.
Mm,
And for me, that has been the most pivotal, life-changing experience that I had.
yeah.
Because when you really face death head on, especially of your father, especially for a man,
Mm,
there is, in a way, confronting the loss of the person who created you, who's
mm-hmm.
brought you here. And it makes you question many things as it was for you.
Mm.
And so on the coffee table right here, I have the Life Designer. I'll give you a copy
Thank
after
you.
as a gift as well. But the first exercise, I can even kind of bring it up. The first page and exercise that we take people through is your lifespan.
Mm-hmm.
So, and there's 100 kind of circles representing a possible 100 years lived.
Great.
And what you do is you fill out, we make you, okay, fill out how many years you've lived so far.
Yep.
And to then allow you to then see visually how much life potential you have left.
Mm-hmm.
To get just that perspective that, hey, this thing is not forever.
Yep.
And then on the next page, we have this beautiful quote by Steve Jobs, who's also here at my
Mm-hmm.
coffee table. Remembering that you're going to die is the best way that I know to avoid the trap of thinking you have something to lose.
Mm-hmm.
So also to make those big bold moves, like moving a country, like, hey, I've built this whole life as you did in England, and you created some of your dreams, but in reality, I actually just want to be in Byron Bay,
Mm-hmm.
surfing, be
Mm-hmm.
with my family and kids,
Yep.
and we'll get into that.
Yep.
And the next question that we have is, calculate kind of your years remaining, and then what are the three things that you want to make sure you fulfill, experience, and actualize in the years remaining?
Mm-hmm.
So, what was it, kind of the answer to that question for you? Like, once you go through this experience and you realize, was it like, okay, I actually want to move back to Australia? I'm curious, what is your answer to that question of after facing your father's death? Of what did you feel like, okay, wow, life is passing by. I'm already in my 40s.
Mm-hmm.
My kids, I have three kids, I have a wife, I have this, but I'm not going to live forever.
Mm-hmm.
So, what did you then think about in terms of the actions you have to take of in the years potentially I have remaining? Maybe it's 50, maybe it's 60, maybe it's who knows.
Mm-hmm.
But what are those moves and actions that you wanted to change in your life?
I think at the time, I honestly wasn't thinking too far ahead, to be honest. I just knew that that was right at that moment and trusted that. And so there was no plan or, okay, this is what I want to get achieved. I was very, very present. I was also very burnt out. I was really aware that I had to rest. I used to, for the first 6 months that I got back to Australia, I'd exited the business, then worked on a big film, you know, taking care of the wellness for some people. And I got home back to Australia and I just used to lie on the grass and sleep for 3, 4 hours. And Chrissy would be, Daddy needs to rest, kind of thing. And I really did. And having that time, it was such an incredible blessing and gift. It was wonderful. And having the trust that the right thing would arise for me as well, because there was a definite dance there with my ego of, you got to go do something. You've got to go do something, prove that you're not finished or whatever. And I really had to process those kind of compulsions as well.
Wow.
Mm.
And why lay on the grass?
Well, it was an instinctive thing. And then now they call it grounding. And, I didn't really have much to say for a while, about 6 years. And I've just now started to think, actually, so much has changed, so much is happening. And from me, I turned 50 last year. I've probably never felt as good. I feel better than I've ever felt in my life. I look better than I've ever looked in my life. I mean, it's remarkable how just a few things that I do have made a massive impact, and pretty easy as well. And that's a big part, is just being barefoot on the earth as often as I can. Um, and then I'm very lucky. I have an ice bath in my back garden and a sauna in my back garden with a beautiful view over the countryside. And every morning I get in and I have an ice bath and I feel amazing. And it hasn't become my personality. I don't talk about it all the time, but it's made a profound difference to how I feel. It really has. And also, and then a sauna every afternoon, and I just feel so good. It's great. And I think then the other thing that I really cherish is my community, my friends. And I've got really good friends, and we're all on each other's side, and we are on each other's team, and we're nice to each other. And there's no teasing, and there's no tearing each other down. And that's really important as well, to have really, for me, good men around that are encouraging me to live at my edge, holding me accountable, and also being really good friends, kind and supportive. It's a new thing. When people come up and visit and they're like, you guys are all really nice to each other. There's no teasing. I said, yeah. I don't want to play defense or like have this stuff. I just want to be around good people. Um, and in terms of health, it's one of the most essential pillars is community and strong relationships. And there's a quote that I'll no doubt butcher, that the quality of your life and the quality of your health is determined by the quality of your relationships. And I've really found that to be true.
Well, the largest longitude study that they did at Harvard
Hmm.
in regards to human well-being and happiness, all related to relationships.
I bet.
And this is why it's so good that you're bringing these things up, and I want to dig into some of those even deeper. Before we get into that, is more on, you said there's certain things that you do, like the sauna, the
Hmm.
cold plunge, the grounding.
Hmm.
Walk us through your routine in terms of that. I want to know the details. I want to know, how long are you in the cold for? How did you like incorporate that? Do you do sauna and then cold plunge? Do you do alternate?
Hmm.
What are the other things that you do or have incorporated in your life to be 50 and saying that this is the best that I felt?
Okay. So I wake up and I will generally go and journal, not for long, for 5 minutes. And I got a lot of these sort of things from various people, uh, Andrew Huberman, Peter Attia, Dr. Rhonda Patrick, some really great people who I think um, are really saying some good things about human health. So I get up, journal, I'll go out into the garden on bare feet and get some morning sunlight. And I and my children now join me, which is beautiful. So we're all out in the garden, just barefoot, um, and we say little affirmations, and it's just a beautiful time to spend. And then I will go over to the ice bath and spend between 2 and 4 minutes. So it's been winter in Byron Bay, and it gets as cold as 25 degrees Celsius. It's freezing. Only kidding. Sometimes it's cold and it's a bit of a challenge, so I'll be in there for 2 minutes. Um, but it sort of should be cold enough for you to gasp, and then you stay in there long enough till you start shivering, generally. And it's different for men and women, and it's different for everybody. But I'll get out and then sort of jump around on the grass. I bought a little trampoline and I'll jump up and down on that for about 5 minutes. Apparently, it's amazing for your lymph, and I always feel good from it. And that doesn't take long. That's like 10 minutes in all. And then I'll go back in, make breakfast for the kids, and we chat around the table. Chrissy, myself, Charlotte, Leo, Rafi, we just talk, and it's really nice. They're all really good people. Um, and then I'll drop them to school and go down for a surf. And generally, I'll only surf for about half an hour. And I love being in the ocean. It's very, very healing. It's like 37 trillion megaliters of sun warmed womb water just healing you, every millimeter of you. And it's just so wonderful to be in there and seeing good friends, and it's beautiful. And then I'll do a bit of work, either with a client or just, whatever I'm sort of doing, which has been property kind of up until now. And then I'll do jujitsu, which is it's a lifelong passion for me. It's a beautiful way for me to stay fit and healthy, have a great community of good people. Um, and then I kind of do a bit more work, and we'll pick up the kids from school, cook, and they've got their kind of activities and sports and things like that. So that's kind of my life generally.
I love that. Living in a city like London is so different. And I
Yes.
remember especially with three kids, it's such a hustle and a grind to be in these cities and these lifestyle. And you've done fairly well for yourself in even a city like London, but it's still hard. So what also made you that shift of like that decision? Because I'm sure there's so many people who move to cities like London, including myself, or New
Hmm.
York, or Paris, and they leave their kind of lives behind in
Hmm.
different places or where they come from or their roots, for this potential opportunity of a bigger life. And So for yourself, how did you make that decision to leave, and also any other commentary on big city life, you know,
Mhm.
because not everyone in London. I am fortunate that I go out, I have a similar routine where I go out to my garden in the morning,
Mhm.
I'll ground and be barefoot. I'll also bounce around, I'll move, I'll do some stretches, I'll do my 7-minute workout,
Mm.
and always try to be with, you know, it, get a little taste of nature,
Yes.
even in a city like London.
Yep.
So I'm curious from your take that, yeah, overall, that making that decision to move, and any tips for people like us living in the city. Because you've done it yourself for a long part of your life.
Look, I'm just very grateful that we live where we live. There was, again, it wasn't my mind making that decision. It was just, I knew that that's where we needed to be as a family. And lots of it makes sense if I kind of outlined the lifestyle that the kids live and all of that sort of stuff. But I mean, it was a much deeper, just, I knew that that was the place for them. And I don't know, I think you do what you can with what you've got. I think, you know, if you've got access to a shower, then you can have cold showers in the morning, honestly, and it's amazing, great. And I mean, London's pretty good. Most big cities have a park somewhere that you could make the effort to get there and be barefoot. And, um, but I don't think where I'm at in my life, I wouldn't choose to live in a big city. Not with the kids at the age that they are, not with how much I'm enjoying just being so connected with nature. I love that. That's my general day to day.
Yeah, I love what you're saying, and one of the things while I'm enjoying this about this conversation, I often say, because you know, often we have these guests who are also like, you know, super famous and things like that, and I have this saying that the truly successful people, you actually don't know them. Like they're actually living their life in very well designed. Like I believe even the way you currently kind of designed it, and I know your life is not perfect. No one's life is really
Mhm.
perfect, and we can dig into that too.
Mhm.
However, I love what you're saying about the way you are living life more intentionally.
Yes.
And, you know, the jumper that I gave you because it was raining and
Yes.
you're wearing now, and I'm wearing a similar shirt from Intelligent Change called, you know, Create Tomorrow.
Mhm.
In a way, you created that, you know, which is now present, but that at that time, tomorrow for your family. With intention, you've designed and created your life. And you, one of the things you mentioned as well, you know, if your kids, you kind of do affirmations.
Mhm.
So I'm curious about what is your perspective of now having that ability to make that big move,
Mhm.
and create this life more of intention. But how does one, including yourself, design their life? You know, design their and think about designing their life in the way of like, this is the way I want to live.
Mhm.
You know, I want to go surf. I want to be my community. I want to be with friends who are kind and
Mhm.
nice. I believe you did this with intention. You didn't just, you know, fall in to Byron Bay and everything just unfolded for you. Knowing you as a person, you live with intention.
Mhm.
So talk more about designing and creating the life of your dreams.
If what I'd really wanted when I was 16 had come true, it would not have been good.
What was that? What did
Well,
you
I don't
want?
even know. Like, I would have liked to, like, imagine if I could manage the department store that, like, you know, like, I'm living a life so beyond my wildest dreams that I couldn't have designed it because I didn't even know it existed. I
Mhm.
didn't know it was possible. I didn't know, I'd never heard of Byron Bay. I didn't know it was possible to go surfing or it was just, I had to open up and go beyond what I wanted and what my mind was aware of. I had to trust that it was happening for me and I just followed each moment. And I really, that's the truth of it.
I love it.
Yeah, like way beyond my wildest dreams. I couldn't have thought it up. I couldn't have dreamt it up. It would have been so limited if I was working within the parameters of my mind and my experience. And when I opened myself up to trust that it was happening for me, that's when these things started to happen. And I did experience, um, success beyond anything I'd ever imagined as well. Thought, to have written a book and all of those sorts of achievements were, you know, amazing for me. But I did have what I saw from people that I'd worked with that were very successful, and what I'd experienced with myself and I realized was that it was never going to be enough. Whatever I did, whatever I achieved for acclaim or recognition or a sense of achievement was never going to be enough. In fact, it created more hunger and more dissatisfaction. And I've seen people win the highest accolades and then the next day be the worst day of their lives because they realized that's not it. It wasn't enough. And so I realized that I had to live a life purely for the love of it, without reason. As soon as I was finding a reason to do something, I realized that that was my mind getting involved and I needed to do it for the love of it, unreasonably, and know that it would work out. And that doesn't mean to say that I was being irresponsible or, unaware of other people's feelings or whatever. But being guided by that was a big, profound change. And I grew up very poor, and just the fact now I've got a swimming pool and I still sometimes stand at the edge of it and think, I can't believe I've got a swimming pool, because the only swimming pools I ever went to, one, I'd climb over someone's back fence with a buddy and sneak into it and like swim in it and then jump out and run away. Um, I never thought, I'd have anything like that. And I had this, I guess, this heady mix of low self-esteem and high self-belief, where I knew I could do it, but I also felt like I didn't deserve it. And it drove me to do a lot of things, and to kind of build a lot of stuff, build businesses, write books, those kinds of things. But again, it didn't bring me much joy. It really didn't. And I only discovered that sense of peace and happiness when I let go of my thoughts and my mind and just was present.
Mm.
And a lot of wonderful, wise people have said, you got to let go of your mind and your thoughts. Or are you having your thoughts, or are your thoughts having you? And I used to think, well, who am I if I'm not my thoughts? Like, what is it? It must be boring. But when you let go of your thoughts and see them for what they are, it's really wonderful, and you can truly connect with people. And I love connecting with people, and I love this idea that, you know, we're one big connected ocean of love, and we're just little drops of that one ocean. There's little Alex and little James running around doing their things, but actually it's just one. Big Alex, big James up there as this one thing, and that we're all connected. And what I love about that is that I get then to express in any way I want through this tiny little drop without shame or fear or embarrassment. And I've loved that as maybe a part of growing older, or just becoming aware of that you get to express and show up however you choose. And I really love that I can be loving and kind and enthusiastic and curious and unafraid. And that's a wonderful way of living. And I love showing my children that as well, because they're becoming brave and courageous and kind, and they're already becoming people that other people can rely on and that feel safe with. And it's just this beautiful thing that I'm part of and experiencing. It's wonderful.
Oh, So many things that are coming up for me.
Mm.
Before we go deeper into some of those things, is um, the thing that I'm picking up is you're embodying a lot of appreciation and gratitude, like you said, even for this pool that you have now, or the grass that you can sleep on for 3 hours.
Yep.
Um, you mentioned your gratitude, kind of your journaling practices around kind of 5 minutes,
Yeah.
and you say you picked up some things. Do you kind of create your own prompts? Like, is it freestyle journaling? I'm curious, what are the questions that you're answering? Is it just free form? What is in that format?
So I have what are 5 things I'm grateful for today? What's something to watch out for today? And that would often come in the form of, being distracted or losing my presence and getting into ego or whatever. Um, what's 3 things that I want to do today? Um, and I'll text you the others. There's about 6 questions, and so it's funny. I kind of dropped off doing the journaling for a while, and my little boy said, "Daddy, I've noticed you're not journaling," and I was like, "I know, I've sort of gotten out of the habit." And he's like, "I'd love it if you started again." I was like, "Really?" He goes, "Yeah, it was nice to see you do that." I was like, "Okay, I'm going to start again." It was beautiful. You don't think your kids notice much, but they really do. They notice everything, and and that was beautiful. I'd love to tell you about a conversation I had with my son as well,
Yeah,
actually,
please. Yeah.
because it sort of leads into um, another thing. So I was driving Leo to his boxing lesson. We were driving in the car, and he said, "Daddy, do you believe in God?" And I said, "I do. I do. How about you?" And he said, "Yeah, I think I do." I was like, "Talk to me about that." He said, "Well, have you heard of the Big Bang Theory?" I said, "I have." He goes, "Just sounds ridiculous to me." I was like, "Really?" Leo's 10. "Talk to me about that." And he said, "Well, so the universe was this big, and then it just exploded, and now it's everything." And I was like, "Yeah." He said, "I mean, how would they know?" And I said, "I don't think they do. I don't think they would." And I think it's a great question, and I love having these conversations with you. And he goes, "Yeah." And I told, and actually, funnily enough, and then someone sent me this thing, and Joe Rogan on his podcast was saying the same thing. Leo doesn't watch Joe Rogan. Anyway, it was just a really interesting thought. It was wonderful. And I was telling a friend of mine, and he said, "Oh, God," he said, "pull him out of school before they crush that out of him, because it's such a beautiful question. And so many of those questions just get crushed out of kids at school because they get told the facts and the blah 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 as it's known." And so I really am committed to educating the kids as much as I can outside of the school system. I just think that this is the whole other thing, but I just think the education system's so archaic, and it sort of hasn't changed much in however many 150 years or whatever. And I think the world's changing so fast under our feet, and there's just better ways now of educating kids. And uh, and I just love that they're still so curious and still so fearless with their thinking and their questions.
Yeah, no, I
Yeah.
think that's incredible. And on that note of education system, one of the things I was thinking about, this practice of gratitude.
Hmm.
I didn't learn that at school,
No.
and it changed my whole life.
Yep.
And also things like affirmations that you're teaching your kids, or also connecting with nature.
Mm.
In a way, schools have disconnected us from actually being human.
Yep.
And how do we actually make better humans who enjoy this incredible experience of life?
Yep.
And in a way, with intelligent change, even like my whole intention is helping people connect more
Yep.
to life and its beauty. And that's why I'm enjoying this conversation with you so much, because
Mm.
it's really a lot of the things that society even sells us on, the fancy cars and
Hmm.
the, big houses and all that stuff. From knowing you as a person, what I really value about you is like the basic foundations of like having a family, having children, going through those challenges, spending time with your children. Like it's wonderful.
Mm.
But that's not what is sexy in our society
Mm-hmm.
or what people are told. However, and I see especially in the younger generation, so many people are single,
Mm.
they're especially in cities, and they're always constantly chasing bigger, better,
Yes.
and not confronting the reality of life and relationships, which is you have to commit,
Mm.
right? And you have to also that's what makes also relationships interesting
Yep.
and love. So I know I'm opening up whole different things, but the way I actually want to guide it is into love. Because as you
Mm.
said, we're all part of this ocean of love.
Yep.
And you and Chrissy, I want to know more
Mm-hmm.
about your love.
Yep.
Because how long have you guys been together, and how do you guys grow that love?
So we've been together 20 years, and it was love at first sight for me.
Tell me more about that.
So I was back in Adelaide where I grew up, and Chrissy's Brazilian, but her dad's Australian. So she, from the age of 5, grew up in Australia. And I was out with some friends at this lovely sort of garden restaurant, and I looked across and I saw Chrissy, and she was smiling, and I fell in love immediately. I was like, oh my God. And I had a tray of drinks, and I went over to put them down, and I turned around and she was gone, and couldn't see her, couldn't find her. Not that I even knew what I was going to say if I did, but there you go. So I didn't stop thinking about her for 3 weeks. And I went to this um, lunch or something. It was a big sort of garden thing. And uh, I saw her. I was like, there she is. And I said to my friend, who's that? She said, that's Chrissy. You got to introduce me. And so we got introduced, and I said, listen, I'd love to see you again. Can I have your number? Yes. We went out on a date, and in my mind, I was in love. And so there was a lot of pressure. And I messed that first date up so horrifically, and started sweating, and then stopped being able to talk because I was like, oh, I'm messing this up. And then my whole shirt was drenched in sweat. And she was like, this has been so lovely, I'm going to go. And I was like, oh no, okay. Okay, fine, you go. Thing. And I went back to London, thought about her every day, and kind of would send the odd text and everything. Didn't see her for a year, and then went back to Adelaide, and I kind of thought, well, I've messed that up. Life goes on. And I bumped into her. I was with my little sister taking her shopping, and I bumped into her, and we sort of got chatting, and I was normal. And I said, and then she said, well, maybe we can go out for a coffee or something. And I was like, oh, amazing, great. And we did, and then finally she got on board. She fell in love as well, and we've pretty much been together ever since. And we had to learn each other's language. There was a lot. The thing that kept us together is that we loved each other so much, and we, at some points, I was like, I don't even know, like, what are we doing? Like, what is this? And she was like, I don't know, because we were arguing all the time, and we just couldn't understand each other. We were making things that each other said mean totally different things. And I said, I tell you what, look, let's spend the day apart. Let's write a list of what we want from life, and let's meet in the park. And if that matches up in any way, let's give it another shot. Now that's how close it got. And she said, okay, no worries. And so we went and we met. We'd written our list, and the lists just matched perfectly. And I said, well, then let's give it a go, kind of thing. And we've always been willing to meet each other where we're at and do the work. We did this, we've done self-development courses, we've done, worked with coach, like whatever we've done. Anyway, sort of fast forward to about 2 years ago, and life's good. And, we get along really well, and we've got this beautiful family and this beautiful life. And Chrissy said, "Oh, our friend Lara, she recommended this great couples coach, couples counselor. We should go see him." And I automatically was resistant. I was like, "Well, why? Like, things are fine." And actually, no, because we can sort it out. We're, both self-expressed and blah. I'm not so sure. She said, "Oh, okay, well, think about it." And I did. And then I tell you, it was really amazing. I started to, in order for me to understand something, I kind of have to have analogies. And I was thinking, hang on a minute. All of the top tennis players have tennis coaches, and all of the top athletes have coaches. The world heavyweight he's got a boxing coach, and football. Ronaldo has a football coach, manager. Like top performers. And this is the most important thing. This is the cornerstone of my life. Of course, we should have a coach. So I'm in. And And the other analogy I used is, when do you put your fire sprinklers in your house? It's not when your house is on fire, it's way before then. And I thought, this is great. This will be really good. And so we went and we worked with Sean, this incredible guy. And it was, it took something that was wonderful and great and just amplified it and made it even more beautiful and and loved deeper, and it was just so beautiful. And there was things where they'd been swept under the carpet, and it was just a lump, and I was like, just leave it there, like, we can live with that little lump under the carpet, kind of thing. And we'd address it, and I'd be thinking, oh my God, we shouldn't have talked about this is never going to reconcile, kind of thing. And then by the end of it, we'd just be hugging and saying I love you, and it was gone. It was no longer, because over years, there's things that happen and you build up a resentment or whatever. And it's just been nothing short of beautiful. And we went in one day and he said, how's things going? We're like, good, really good, harmonious. And he said, I think you guys have graduated. I don't know what more I can do, kind of thing. And which was nice, but actually we said we'd still like to keep coming every 3 months just for a check-in. And things come up. You have a disagreement about, something with the kids or where you want to go or whatever. And it's been really transformative. And actually, now thinking about it, I don't know, it should be a wedding gift. Like,
Mm.
as someone gets married, they should get gifted 10 sessions with a great couples coach or marriage counselor and get it done before, while things are great. So you've got these, amazing tools to help you navigate the inevitable disagreements so that they don't kind of escalate into stuff, because it's so rarely the thing. It's always the stuff said around it. And since then I've learned, apparently an emotion lasts for about 90 seconds, the energy and hormonal kind of thing of, so I always give myself at least 2 minutes before I respond, because then I'm responding and not reacting. So if I've got a charge around it, I'll wait a couple of minutes. And just that's been transformative. And even, I think the advice of never go to bed angry, I think it's terrible advice, because me and Chrissy have been like trying to sort stuff out at 2 in the morning, and it's like, oh my God, just stop. And we're both exhausted and saying horrible things. Not often, by the way, but together for 20 years, these things happen. And we've just learned, like, look, we're both in it, we're both angry, and we're both, nothing good's going to get said now. Let's just go to bed. And it's been so liberating. And you don't have the big argument. You wake up, and honestly, 9 times out of 10, it's like, I actually don't care about what we were arguing about. I don't even need to talk about it. Do you? No. you know, and that's been wonderful. I think, don't get about angry, along with dance like no one's watching, two of the worst pieces of advice ever.
Why?
Oh,
Why?
you shouldn't dance like no one's watching. But I mean, that's just been really just a great learning for us specifically. And for a lot of friends, like, oh my God, definitely you shouldn't be arguing, talking about anything after 10 o'clock. Like, just go to bed and you wake up and you'll feel so differently.
I'm still curious why don't dance like no one's watching. What?
No, it's just a funny thing. Sometimes, you know, it's like, no, it's a joke. It's a joke.
You're gonna make a lot of people
I
self-conscious
know,
about their
I'm only
dancing.
kidding. Dance like no one's watching for sure.
Well, but I'm curious about what are the actual potentially specific tools that you learned that were the most powerful for you. You named some of them, like let's say the hey, emotion only lasts 90 seconds
Mm,
to not to let that pass. I think for me, it's like that's something I'm highlighting
mm-hmm.
and taking with me because it's so key
Yep.
and something that I've learned, recently as well as a man is how important it is for as men to not react
Mm-hmm.
and instead respond
Mm-hmm.
to our women
Yes.
to in those situations. So I'm curious, what are the other things that you have learned that has really helped you, especially because I'm currently as well, going through divorce,
Mm-hmm.
have to start a new relationship and begin a whole new life,
Mm.
and I want to not repeat
Yes.
certain patterns. And I do believe and respect, couples like you and Chrissy, who, especially with three kids and
Mm-hmm.
moving and businesses, there's
Yes.
so many ways, so many times probably you're like, hey, you know what? Like, I hang it up. I want to give up. Let's just walk away.
Yep.
But you guys keep kind of tapping in, as you said, keep working on yourself. Even Chrissy recommended this coach, which I think is, again, another highlight.
Yep.
So important.
Yeah.
So what are the other tools and tips that you have learned? They're like, wow, that was like really key and it's been really helpful in helping me navigate as a man, just our relationship in general.
Yes.
Because I want to,
Yeah.
I want to
So,
level up.
okay. Well, for me, what I've experienced to be really powerful and true is I know that when I'm talking too much, I'm almost always my ego is taken over, my identity, my personality, and it's got to prove a point or blah blah blah, play defense or whatever it is. I know when I'm saying too many words, I'm like, I'm gone. I'm just an ego. And so I'll shut up. And that's been really good and very powerful. So I'll just shush and I'll say, look, I'm charged. Now I am. And or, vice versa with Chrissy. Uh just that alone is huge. And if we've been snippy with each other and there's things that come up in life, as you know, and we're like, let's take a pause. Let's just sit here. There's nothing to say. Let's just wait. And we're both still a bit annoyed. And then Sean taught us you just got to reach out with your finger. And then the other person's got to touch your finger. And it's unbelievable how you just talk. You're like, oh, I don't. Okay. And then it just evaporates. It melts. And then you like, oh, and then you hold hands and then you hug. And it seems so contrived and it seems so silly, but it's so powerful. It's wonderful. Just that's all I can take right now is just fingertips kind of thing. But just that little act of connection and reaching out has been so healing and wonderful. Um, and the we it's really important to show the kids that possibility of healing and repairing, because that informs how they're going to navigate their relationships. And they're like, you know what, no matter what happens, you can always heal and repair. You can come back to a place of love. And that's really important for Chrissy and I as well. I mean, there's a lot to be said. I might go off track here because there's one other thing um, that I wanted to say with the kids is, you know, we're always honest about how we're feeling. Because sometimes I will just get this thing of grief about my dad, and I just like, oh, kind of thing. It gets me, and I'll just sit with it for 20 minutes. And if the kids come over and they'll say, "Daddy, are you sad?" often I think we're encouraged to snap out of it and say, nope, everything's great, nothing to worry about, and put a big smile on. But the kids are really smart and very intuitive and tuned in. And they're like, well, I know you're sad and you're pretending not to be. Is there something wrong with feeling? Like, what's the deal here, kind of thing? And it teaches them stuff that won't serve them. That's for sure. I feel like for me and my children, it's way better to be honest. You know what, I'm having some feelings, and I'm missing my dad right now, as an example. um and so, yeah, you're right, and that's okay, and it'll pass, and then they'll sit on my lap and, give me a hug or whatever, and just sit with me, kind of thing. And it's beautiful to kind of show them that it's okay to have feelings and feel. And also, there's a obviously limits to that. You know what I mean? Like, you don't sort of share everything with them, but you can say, you know what, I'm feeling some feelings. I've got some stuff going on. And so you're right. What you're feeling, what you're sensing, it's true. And that's okay as well. And it's going to pass. And I think our children have really benefited from that. Um, and it's made them more self-expressed, and also to be a safe place for them, to sit with them. And we sit with them every night. For bedtimes, I sing each kid 2 songs, and then sit with them and say, what's going on. And sometimes there'll be something happening, like, oh, well, you know this. And I will always say, do you want advice, or do you want me to just listen? And they always say, I just want you to listen. And it's hard sometimes to bite your tongue, but it's so valuable to not get in and fix, change, improve. Just listen. And often I'll say, okay, I hear you, and oh, I get it. That's confusing or whatever. And like, yeah, and I won't give any advice. And then often they'll come out and say, all right, well, what do you think then? Kind of thing. And you get to give some advice, but it's really important for me that you give them that space to be able to express and talk, and know that you won't get in and try and fix, change, improve. Um, that's on the kids, and that just came up in my mind there. I think it's really important as a parent, to have that kind of relationship with them. And um, there was something about the Chrissy and our relationship, and you'd asked.
Well, actually, I want to double tap
Cool.
on the kids.
Great.
I think you're going there, and it's something I want to know for myself. I have, a daughter that's going to
Mm-hmm.
turn 9.
Mm,
You have 3 beautiful
yeah.
children, and what have you learned, again, about being a man, about being a father, to be able to show up for them
Yes.
in ways that you just said? This is beautiful. Again, something that I'm gonna be highlighting and taking away
Mm,
for myself, to how I am with my daughter Alexa.
mm.
And at the same time, what are other tips that you can give me as a father?
I, about 5 years ago, committed to becoming the best father I could be, and I really educated myself, and I listened to every book I could find on parenting. And the best one I found was by an Australian woman called Maggie Dent, and it was amazing. Within the first chapter, I was just crying because it was so beautiful. You get this insight into what's happening with your kids. And so, for instance, specifically with Leo, she talks about little boys, and how, there's all kids, parts of their brain haven't developed yet. So when you're kind of talking to an emotional, upset kid and saying, be reasonable, they don't have that bit. Like, it's not even there. And so just to be able to hold space, and have them feel safe, and have them understand and know that however big their feelings are, you'll never turn your back on them. You'll always be there. And also that any feeling they have is okay. Not every behavior is okay, but whatever they're feeling is okay, and they're loved no matter what. And that's a big one, to understand. And look, another thing, and this was tough. about 4 years ago, I think Chrissy said to me, you know, you got to understand you're the biggest person in this house. You're a big guy and you've got a booming voice. And when you raise your voice, it's scary for our kids. And it killed me. It hurt me. I couldn't hear it. I was like, it was really hard to hear. It was really painful. And I didn't yell a lot, but you know, it was just sometimes you'd raise your voice because you needed to get something done or whatever. And she said, I don't think you realize how, you know, booming it is and how much of an effect it has. And I mean, I was really like, oh, for about a week. But I really got the truth of that. And I haven't raised my voice since because there's other ways of communicating and my relationships, I know them better. I understand my role in my family. And funnily enough, at the start of the year, for no reason at all, I started going to church again. And the only reason was because the little local church around the corner is called St. Kevin's, and my dad's name was Kevin.
Mm.
I thought I would like to go to St. Kevin's, and I'm just going to go sit there and listen. And I go every Sunday, and I absolutely love it. And it's been really wonderful to have that time and to have that time just for me for no benefit. It's not like an ice bath where I can rationalize it with all of the hormonal benefits. There's nothing other than just faith and enjoying that time. The first morning I went to church and I was sitting there, and then this thing came into my head, which was, I am the mountain upon which my family play, and Chrissy is the moonlight that lights our way. And I just loved that feeling that came over me of like, that's right, I'm a mountain for my family. I'm just stable and strong and there for them. And I love that they feel safe to play there and be themselves. And sometimes I'll run things through that filter of, am I being a mountain right now? Am I being strong and reliable and ever present? And I tend to think that I am more often than not. I'm really present with them, and I love the fact that I've learned about the masculine and the feminine. And by the sounds of it, I feel like you have too with some of the things that you're saying. And I didn't understand the polarity required there, and I kind of thought it was better to be there in the middle and like understanding the different roles that they play in a family and a relationship has also been nothing short of transformative. To understand the kind of wonderful duty and the wonderful responsibility and privilege of embodying that masculine energy in its truest and most wonderful form has just been so good for me, for my family, for my relationship with my wife. And I have now, I just think, I don't know, it's just very, very powerful. It's wonderful. It's got to be, it's the way.
But what do you mean is the way? Can you tell us more, especially on the polarity front? Because a lot of people, especially men, they don't understand the polarity. And it's even the same thing, something that I'm learning is the importance of embodying that healthy masculine. So
Mm,
for you, what have you learned in regards to maintaining that polarity in the relationship? And because oftentimes we as men, we get kind of polished off
mm-hmm.
by women, because women are also a bit, uncontrollable by the feminine. So I'm curious, and because you gave that example of being that stable mountain.
Mm.
So what are some top takeaways again that you can pass on to men in general, and even to couples that are regarding the polarity that you have learned that is so key and important?
I need to keep things simple for myself. And I have a kind of just some things that I live by. And one thing that has served me very well is that I have two roles. I have two things. I am there to provide and I'm there to protect. And that might be controversial and some people might not like it, and that's fine, but it's very true for me and it works very well for me. And so anything in service of providing and protecting, that's the way I go. And that's sort of what's prompted as well this new I thought I was retired. I thought like, great, I'm done. And I went to a wedding in December, and some dear friends of ours, very, wonderful people, very successful people, sort of pulled me aside and they said, James, you can't retire. You have to do something. Trust us. Go and do something, because you'll drift for the next 10 years and then you're 60 and it'll be too late. You got to go, and you've got to go wholeheartedly. And I'm so grateful that I decided to do that. And I'm so happy to be, because I'd equated working or running a business with a lot of pain and a lot of sort of angst, but approaching it now from a completely different point of view, it's been so exciting. And of course, there's challenges, but there's challenges with everything. And I'd rather have those challenges than the challenges of sitting around slowly decaying, and back to, living at your edge and living with purpose, and providing and doing things that are, setting you alight, igniting wonderful things. And, whether that's painting or it doesn't matter, whatever it is, I feel like you, as a someone in the masculine, regardless of gender, not to get into any of that, but someone in the masculine, it's important to be on purpose and doing those things. Not sure if that answers the question.
No, it still does. I should have given you another jumper that have purpose driven.
Oh, okay. Yeah, right.
I'll give you that now.
Okay.
The next one.
Yeah.
To wrap up, me and you, I think we're gonna need a part two. Maybe
Okay.
I'll come to Byron Bay and
Definitely.
we surf, we hang out,
Yes.
because there's so many things that we need to still keep continuing to chatting on. This has been one of my favorite podcasts that I've done
Oh,
to date, and it's like I said, it's been kind of casual, but I remember even our chats from back in the
yeah.
day, and I still remember when I had your James Special Bodyism shake
Yeah.
with extra caffeine. That was the only time I really was jittering from coffee.
Yeah, right.
Was when I had that one.
Yeah.
But the last two questions I want to ask you is, first is today,
hmm
what are you grateful for?
I'm really grateful that I can be here with you and be fully self-expressed and really communicate fearlessly. And that's really, I really appreciate that, and it hasn't always been the case for me. And I love that I'm able to do that. And then, as you ask the question, the faces of my family just come up in my mind, and I love them, and I am so excited to see them again. And I'm also so happy to be right here. And that's a great feeling to have these beautiful people in my life that I love, but I'm not miserable about being apart from them, because I'm also really here as well. Um, I'm I'm grateful for my sobriety as well. I have to say, I'm grateful to be present, and I often think, what more than everything could you possibly want? Like, there's nothing I could take that would amplify my experience of right now. It's amazing.
Yeah,
So, yeah, that's what I'm grateful for, is this moment. Truly.
thank you, James. And I also really appreciate, you kind of also communicating the, I think, sobriety piece,
Mm.
which is key, and also for men, but also for men, the self-expression element,
hmm
especially because us being able to have this authentic conversation, and for you to be able to, even though we haven't, caught up in person for like almost 6 years,
hmm
to be able to communicate really to the world. And in this genuine way, I believe this conversation is going to inspire so many men to show up in this way, because doesn't this feel good?
Mm-hmm.
Like it feels so good to be self-expressed and to be like to also show up with vulnerability and to, and you said you're still very strong, you fight jiu-jitsu, you kick people's ass, but at the same time you're able to have this vulnerable side and as well show up for your community, for your friends,
Yes.
for your family, for your children. There's such an important role that we as men play.
Yes.
And even this, yourself and even this conversation, what has inspired me and will continue to inspire me. I will re-listen to this myself as well and pass on to some of people in my life. Just, I'm also grateful to you just to be able to live this life and to keep learning and growing and to challenging yourself.
Mm-hmm.
And the last way I want to leave off this podcast is we have a get closer game,
Mm-hmm.
and a lot of the cards have been taken by people.
Okay.
So there's a few remaining here, and we have 3 levels of questions that you can pick. So either close is like more easygoing questions, closer or closest. They're a bit more spicy. They can get a little more personal.
Okay.
So yeah, which level do you want to pick for yourself? Read it out loud and then answer it.
Let's go
Actually,
closest.
okay, closest. Oh, okay.
Right?
Go for it.
Okay.
Okay, what do you got?
Okay. What is your greatest gift or talent? My greatest gift or talent is I really love people.
Mm.
And I think from that I'm able to communicate and people trust me. And that's my greatest gift or talent.
Well, thank you for your gift, James. I really appreciate you sharing your gift here and with people and myself. And yeah, it's been a blast. Let's definitely do a part 2.
Yes.
All right. Thank you, James.
Thank you, man.
Amazing. Thank you.